but also people just affected by things, and you listen to them and you do things together. This is the participatory thing. And you say, the money I have is a tool that can be employed. It's not there to exercise control. Yes, we want to do it wisely, because the money where people are ready to let go of, that's not, it could be much more. If you look at the wealth and it makes me sick. It really, really makes me sick, the behavior of the super rich.
Hello, my glucose guardians, my sucrose subsidizers, my carbohydrate caretakers. It's your favorite sugar baby, Tiffany Kaguremogo, back for another episode of What is This Hot Mess? A podcast that sits with fire feminists from across the globe to figure out why the world is hot trash right now. In the previous episode, we started talking about the cash, the money, the moolah, making it rain on these haters. And we sat down with Bob, who is the ex-ED of Australia and subsequently a magician at the Mozilla Fund, who is now doing their own thing. And also, I know, I always have to say this, but it's also a fave, guys. Like, I told you, I'm just on here chatting to the faves on company time, right? It was such a vibe, and now in this episode, we continue the conversation about the coins and speak to Ise Bosch. Ise is the founder of Dry Linden and has been moving through the funding space for over 15 years, dabbling in the realms of human rights, women, and sexual minorities. Her book, Giving with Trust, discusses how we can turn the power of money into the power for the many. And being an inheritor, she has the gravitas to be talking about these things. She also wrote Donating Better, a guide to sustainable commitment. In all of this, her day job is actually being a musician. And also, you know what? She also drives a ferry at the weekend, because why not?
So this took a while. They say you come into the money, right, in English? My grandfather was the company founder in the family. So I was given part of this even at birth. So I really grew up with that weird kind of consciousness, not consciousness of being rich. Because if you're wealthy, you know, that's like the air you breathe. So it's not a topic. Now, that's a podcast in itself, right? But it does happen, and I don't think it's entirely bad, because with highly educated parents with good values, actually, it was a relatively, like for my environment, relatively normal upbringing. They made sure we weren't concerned too much with all that inheritance. We lived really close by all that wealth, but didn't feel it so much. Part of that is that if you're very rich, you know, it doesn't get addressed so much. But like, there wasn't so much staff. There were like nannies, yes, but not as much as you would think. There were nice holidays, but no flying really, or, you know, we hardly went to a restaurant or things like that. Because it was post-war Germany, where they had experienced scarcity, not really hunger, but scarcity. And they had this strong work ethic, and the kids were brought up that way. Right? So I learned a proper job, which is music. And it also felt like better to develop something like this than to get into the money world. And it's even called like that, I guess, because they were highly educated. They kind of looked down on people who display too much wealth. It's very interesting, because only since I got into philanthropy am I meeting other rich people besides my family. My environment was, you know, bourgeois, decently wealthy, but not super rich. And this really came about through my own choosing and work. which is at some point, and it really was US people that I went to school with, because I had the privilege of attending a nice leftist private college in the US. They got me to the place of saying, put your money where your mouth is. If you are kind of lefty and concerned with justice and global justice and queer issues, and at that time was gay, lesbian issues, then put your money there. So from then on, I started building organizations that have to do with inherited wealth or any wealth. Noticing that there was some of cool stuff organizing happening in the States ever since the 1970s, like foundations, community foundations with participatory processes. They had them then, kind of the alternative type philanthropy. And I went to study that. There were some courses on that, something called the Philanthropy Workshop, and a follow-on actually still exists. It's called Forward Global. And young people like me or older people like me can go there and study how to do trust-based philanthropy, how to let go. And by the way, this is the topic I'd love to bring in, where I think actually money and values and even something like deep felt emotion that's not so far from erotic actually go together, which is this whole letting go thing, which I think is the biggest thing for wealthy people, privileged people, upper class people, even people who come into new money, people who end up for some reason or other in positions of control, especially if they're bred into this. They have to learn how to let go of that if they want to come to collective action or action of solidarity. It's the learning of the letting go.
The talk of the town is that money is seemingly disappearing. Official development assistance reductions are having an immediate impact on philanthropic support. Foundations currently provide nearly $5 billion a year for human rights action worldwide. These ODA cuts are already having a significant effect on philanthropic support through both direct funding losses and the rapid depletion across the broader ecosystem, increasing overall demands. I want to take this moment to address the difference between philanthropy and funding, because I keep getting it twisted. And I might get it twisted now, so if I get it wrong, you know what, I tried. So, funding is the general allocation of money to achieve a specific, usually short-term objective. Philanthropy is a long-term, mission-driven approach to addressing the root causes of social problems. While all philanthropy is funding, not all funding is philanthropic.
So what do we do as civil society activists? We look at a problem and we try to find a solution that involves grassroots. Mm-hmm. Right? We assume and confirm that people at grassroots know best. The people affected actually have a say. Now, that is a world that we've been developing, but there's another world out there that says control, top down. If you've managed to become very rich, it's yours, and you are supposed to exercise and keep control.
What is the global flow of money looking like? I'm so happy you asked. According to one comprehensive analysis, the US has one of the largest philanthropic sectors globally, with total charitable giving reaching an estimated $592 billion in 2024. The majority of this comes from individuals, but foundations and corporations are also big money players in the space. Europe has about 180,000 foundations that donate an estimated 60 billion euros annually to 2.8 million charitable organizations. Most European foundations have emerged in the last 2 decades, so it's giving kind of young blood when it comes to the sector, but according to reports, it's maturing fast. It's kind of shady that it took them so long to get into the game, but hey, look, at least they finally come to the party. It's a real mixed masala situation over there with a lot of diversity in its philanthropic culture. regulatory frameworks, and also giving patterns across all of the various countries. Now, the sector you don't often think about being in the philanthropic space is the African sector, but African philanthropy is actually a thing. Because everyone always assumes that the money is being donated here, but in this context, it actually extends far beyond the formalized Western models, often encompassing rich traditions of community support, religious giving, and also mutual aid. The continent demonstrates remarkable innovation in philanthropic approaches, often driven by necessity and deep cultural values of solidarity and collective responsibility. Of course, this is a feminist podcast, so we have to talk about the giving to the girls, the femmes, the women, and the thems. Giving to women and girls organizations exceeded 10 billion for the first time in 2021, though this represents less than 2% of total charitable giving in the United States. While this milestone was significant, it also still reveals how underfunded gender equity work remains relative to the need for it. Ask any of the women or girls NGOs in any country and they will echo this wholeheartedly. In the Too Southern to Be Funded report that I mentioned in the last podcast episode, there is tied aid and untied aid. Tied aid is aid that needs to come through organizations in donor countries, meaning they still call the shots. This makes it so that there are long-standing calls for a more equitable and decolonized development sector. But the problem is the money is still collated in the global minority. And you know what they say, in the words of Biggie Smalls, more money, more problems. Sometimes even wealth comes with strings. So you have to figure out how to shake off those shackles.
The more money we come across, the more problems we see.
And actually, there's many wealthy families where that also gets handed down, right? I don't think there's much to be envied if you grow up as an inheritor with the charge that money that you're inheriting is not really yours. It's kind of a loan, and you're supposed to pay back to your family by being super successful. Not a nice life, right? There's a lot of stress involved in that model, and the alternative to that is crossing boundaries. You kind of leave where you're from. You find people in the intermediary, I'd say, like good NGOs that run good programs, but also people just affected by things, and you listen to them and you do things together. This is the participatory thing. And you say, the money I have is a tool that can be employed. It's not there to exercise control. Yes, we want to do it wisely, because the money where people are ready to let go of, that's not, it could be much more. If you look at the wealth and it makes me sick. It really, really makes me sick, the behavior of the super rich. There is very little in the world that destroys my day, like this news recently, what happens with the person you mentioned already and his firm going public. And it really is terrible.
Elon Musk is a trillionaire, y'all. Like he's a trillionaire. Like, what does that even mean? Like, what does it even mean? But, actually, there was a moment there he was a trillionaire. It has been walked back because people just be saying stuff sometimes. And also, was that IPO a scam? Maybe. But I digress. It's actually just wild business. And before you jump on the whole don't hate the player, hate the game thing, I am hating the game. What do you even do with $1 trillion? At some point, you're not even doing it for the plot anymore. Instead of going to Mars, why not make this lovely little pebble we're on better? Also, Mars is whack. Like, have you seen footage of Mars? No one wants to live there. It is uninhabitable. So, I'm just saying, count me out. Not that I was really ever counted in, but you know what? It's just the principle.
rich people have the choice to cross these boundaries. And if they're lucky, they make good friends at early age and find out that, yes, it's one world. And this is really the bigger question also that I walk with a lot these days, as so much is breaking. So we're in a time of grief, actually, as donors who've been working for this, donors and anybody working in the field, and field, stupid term, just using it only for abbreviation. But like as communities of practice of, how to how to get out of these stupid top-down hierarchical models, there's also things that we want to keep.
Okay.
If we're looking ahead, and I think it makes sense to focus on those. And to me, international solidarity has always meant a lot, right? I know about difference. It's not about everybody becoming the same. There's no chance we'll all be the same. We're so deeply influenced by where we come from, and everybody holds on to the comforts that they have, right? We have in these global north countries built up a certain segment of society that's really interested in international solidarity. And those are the people that have pushed for development cooperation, as flawed as it always was, but from stateside, but also civil society, private individuals who, have partner organizations on the African continent or wherever, in Latin America, in East Asia, in South Asia. There's so many connections that we have built. And I think these are precious, these connections. They should be kept.
So, to what extent is a global minority/global majority collaboration even feasible? Not everyone is as magical as Ise in bringing the good vibes. How do we swap the power imbalance and continue to ensure that the global wealth balances out as much as possible? So, it is projected that global official development assistance is projected to plummet by $62 billion annually by 2026. This estimated decline to $161 billion is projected to this year, representing a 28% reduction from a record high of $223 billion in 2023. 3 countries are driving 84% of the projected ODA decrease. These nations are, in order, the United States at $36 billion, Germany at $10 billion, and the United Kingdom at $7 billion. And all of these are responsible for the vast majority of this projected annual ODA decrease. The history of colonization and its modern-day cousin capitalism has meant that certain countries just hold all the financial power and trickle this down in the form of, bless, let us help you after we rob you type of aid. Is there a way to make it so that people with the money listen to those who are doing the work?
I think these spaces need to be developed. But what also needs to be developed is the values of how to do this and how to make sure as a donor, you're in the back seat and not in the front seat. The front seat are the people who are closest to the work and who should be in a position to make the concrete decisions on what happens. And the donor's proper position is in the back seat, actually not talking like I am talking right here, because yes, given that we have this ownership thing, I have to sign that check or whatever. I need to be informed, and I need to be open to be informed. And what happens, I guess, to anyone in the world, you know a little thing and you think you know a lot.
That is true.
I think that's kind of a human thing to be susceptible to that. Because if it's done with heart, even toward ourselves, not to be too hard, because then we stop doing what we do. But just if we know, yes, we can be corrected. will survive. So we can actually listen.
Talking about money is awkward as fuck. You know when you're out at a restaurant and the bill comes and suddenly there's like an extra salad and 3 shots that no one is owning up to? It's a tense moment. So what does it mean to be able to come to people and be like, you have more money than you can shake a stick at. How about you don't be an ass and give some of it away, but kindly, with a sense of equal exchange? Is this how these conversations happen behind closed doors? I asked Ise what it's like to have the conversations around giving and the power behind giving to others. What does it mean to unpack having that power to pay the bill for the whole table, and how you make it so that the peers listen? Can they even listen?
I think people are much more ashamed of, because it's kind of automatic that you talk over other people. Like I talk over you sometimes. It's right. And we like it too. It's also an exchange. If it's eye level, it's an exchange. But if one person is there with the money and the other person is there needing that money, then we need to talk about other things too before it's a proper exchange. So how do I do it? As I said, this international solidarity thing has been huge for me, especially in the lesbian world. Like really from my heart, wanting that any lesbian in the world has another lesbian to talk to, at least talk. So my learning curve was, once I inherited money that I didn't have a plan for. This after I had to do with some financial stuff in the family. And I went to Australia, the Lesbian Foundation for Justice.
And now we have the crossover episode. Remember Bob from the previous episode? Here is the feature. Ise and Bob in the same funding universe, but years apart. Kismet, if you will. Or maybe Tiff just plans her podcasting so well and has a deep mastery of time and space. Because time is a construct. But again, crossover episode because here comes Istria, circa 1996.
Somebody pointed me there and said they might be able to actually do something good with your money. And I said, well, my idea is any lesbian organization in the world should have a computer. We're talking about the year of 1996. So that they can speak to each other and increase their outreach and whatnot. And Catherine Acey, who was at the helm at that time, said, well, that's a nice idea. I'll speak to people. So she did and came back with the answer. Not every organization needs a computer. Some need other things first. Like if you're in Fiji, if you don't have an air-conditioned room, forget about the computer. It will not work. For instance, right? So that was the beginning of my journey, really, as they say in business English, to say, hey, whenever I have an idea, I will speak to others before we do anything to put it in place, because it will probably be wrong.
So, African proverb time, the one that I love so much. I love it so much I should probably get it tattooed on myself. I'd be throwing it everywhere, but here it is. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Ise is all about international solidarity and learning, but the other kind of wholesome part is having a crew with the coins who can come together and engage. So, now I did some Googling. Yes, more of my shady Googling, which is why I have Cam on the team. And I found out that the internet streets were calling Ise an heiress and saying that she started a network of heiresses. She is not having it and requested that we toss the word. Apparently, we are moving with the word inheritor, which frankly does sound less Disney princesses with the fur and a lot more badass. So, to go back to my African proverb, if you want to go far, go together, even if none of you is wearing chinchilla.
So, inheritor, we no longer say heiress. We are canceling that. We're canceling heiress.
Yeah, the heiress wore, what's it called? A fur coat, and we don't.
No fur coats. So your
No
meetings do
fur
not have
coats.
fur coats. Ah,
Well, I mean, if anybody really wanted to wear a fur coat, they'd probably run into some trouble there. I mean, it's okay. What it is self-organized with along anarchist principles,
okay.
meaning that whoever wants to come and do something can do something with the group. We use open space format, so you can talk about whatever you find relevant. So we have relevance assured. Um, I think it's like 150 members at this point. And yeah, conditioned is that you own €500,000 and you have to prove it. Because we had a journalist once who wrote a nasty article with the kind of expectations, like you said, like yammering about responsibility, blah, blah. Um, what it is a peer-to-peer place where women who find they have surplus money um, can go and talk about responsibilities, essentially, and, concrete issues like how to deal with this with the kids, with the hetero partner who might have a hard time that his money is not so important in comparison, right? This time there was a lot of talk about taxes,
Okay.
like demands for tax increase for the super wealthy, and how we want to get active about this, right? In the interest of democracy. So, and there's regional groups where people meet like monthly. There's an annual federal get together that includes some Swiss and some Austrian women. And what's really, I think, most impressive to anyone coming there is the immediate space of trust that women feel. There's so much mistrust and hard feelings around money, and so many when they come for the first time. The biggest fear is that somebody will recognize them because they're often not out as
Oh,
wealthy. I mean, we tend to be the ones in the families who think a lot about things like responsibility. Um, so many of them actually have jobs like in the social sector, not so high profile, not so well paid. All their colleagues don't get paid well, but they have this money in the background, so they don't sometimes have a hard time like inviting colleagues home, because what if they see how I live? Insecurities
wow.
like this, right?
Okay.
Now, it's nothing to yammer about. It's a nice problem to have. But for many, there's so many family stories and family tension, family war around money. So it is an issue that if you inherit, you better deal with it. It's better if you deal with it than if you don't, because you just have to. So to have peer support about this, of course, is an ad. It's just nothing that the general public has so much understanding for, which is fine. We get all this privilege. We have it has a huge upside and it has downsides. So you find your way.
Look, it be like that sometimes. Sometimes you just need friends who understand your struggles, and I absolutely adore that women come together and support women. And the magical thing is this collective has been coming together for around 25 years. And we love to see a supportive community, because part of the theme of this podcast is more money, more problems. Like, why is my man's catching feelings that his coins aren't as deep as mine? Because of the patriarchy, sweetie. Because of the patriarchy. You could literally be living the soft life, sipping mimosas, staying moisturized and hydrated, but your masculinity has you by a chokehold. Feminism will free us all. But some fellas aren't ready for that conversation. So in the interest of handling your bank and your business, I asked Ise about the notion of sustainable wealth management.
I've been in this field ever since I started managing my own money, and then I wanted to make sure that money wasn't in the wrong places. At that time, it was really out of military, out of nuclear issues, and so on. Now it's carbon. And there's so much more one needs to get out of. But actually, nobody says what sustainability really is. Actually, it is a German invention. Yes, hate to tell you. It was a forester from, I believe, the 17th century, maybe 18th century, who really developed the concept of how to harvest, how to manage a forest sustainably, only to fell this many trees so enough trees would grow back. Okay. So you'd have a increasing wealth in that forest in the truly long term. That's where the scientific definition of sustainability goes back to.
Okay.
And then it was much developed also onto other issues, the Brundtland Commission and so on. Meaning you don't take more than you give. And I mean, there's so many indigenous concepts that had that long before that German forester had the idea. Of course, right? It's not an invention. I mean, it's just that now we know more because we have more global conversation about this, that these concepts have existed in so many cultures. I personally would take sustainability bigger than just making sure the money stays solid or something like that. The question that comes into this is, how much is enough for me? Right? How much is left over?
Ise went on to tell me about the enough movement that sought to think about how much is genuinely enough for a person to live on. So research told me that the enough movement, often termed the limitarianism movement, puts forward the idea that there should be an established cap on personal wealth and earnings. Led by economists like Ingrid Robbins and movements like Millionaires for Humanity, the concept of enough asserts that the extreme wealth concentration creates negative societal consequences, including widening political inequality, wage stagnation, and the acceleration of climate emergency. Thinkers in the limitarianism movement suggest that no individual should be allowed to hoard astronomical fortunes, for example, capping personal wealth radically, such as at £10 million or euros, with excess funds redistributed to the public.
Young people saying, hey, so what do I want for myself? Do I want anything for myself? It can be zero, it can be, I want to live off very little and have a proper job. It can be, I've been in the artsy world for too long. I'd better have a little supplement from the inheritance side, and maybe put something back for old age. That's kind of my situation. If I reject the tendency that money always has to become more, wealth has to increase, it does not. It simply does not. There's so much that speaks against that idea. For instance, that if we want to solve a problem, usually to try to solve it now rather than in 10 years, it's much, much cheaper. This is what they say about climate change. Any year that we postpone makes the whole thing so much more expensive. So actually, it's economical to give the money now, to start spending, to get active. And of course, it's good if you know what you want and really follow a course. Like, for me, it is international queer solidarity. But there is another dimension to this, which is global capitalism. It extracts money from the places that were colonized or colonized by trade. And there is a give back thing that's a belief that it's a good thing to give back. That to me connects with the international solidarity. That this is something that needs to come from global minority areas where the money is concentrated. It needs to go back to other places. And it makes practical sense because, of course, if, say, I give money to a foundation that sits in Kenya, in West Africa or South Africa, Southern Africa. They will know better what to do with the money than I will know. And then I better have the ethics to let them do what they see right is the right thing to do and not control it too much.
Now, at this point in the conversation, I told Ise that it was touch and go whether I would have the ethics to give the money back. Look, before everyone starts catching feelings, this is a safe space. It really is. We can be honest with each other in this parasocial relationship. Would you really get deep down into it and let the money flow back and ethically take a step back? No. Sit there with your soul and the God that you pray to and ask yourself the hard questions. Would you really ethically give the money back and take a step back? Look, the way my control issues are set up, I don't know if I could, but I like to think that somewhere on a different timeline, there's a Tiffy doing the good philanthropic work to offshoot the other timeline where Tiff is a full-blown supervillain. On this timeline, I mainly mind my business because frankly, I'm just here for the snacks.
In my case, I've just really enjoyed some deep friendships with individual people who live in very different areas and who've shown me their world, and where I feel like it's really talking back and forth. And it's, yes, the money's in the field, of course, but we can also just have friendship talks. And I'm more in the learning position there. And I can show something too. I mean, as you see, I like to share. So yeah, I've really profited from that. And I'd even say that is part of family inheritance here, because in my family, they've traveled a lot. And even the person who started the big making of money, my grandfather, he was into international solidarity. He was justice oriented. He lived through First World War and the beginning of the Nazi period, and really he was in the resistance there. And this, I guess it was partly running an international business that made him rather open-minded. And he might have been much more directive than I am, but the idea of solidarity was there, and the idea of international justice. So I think actually that's the biggest thing I inherited. That's bigger than the money.
Anyone within the realm knows that the money is being rolled back. So one of the big questions being thrown about is, can philanthropy replace funding? According to the report by the Center for Human Development, philanthropy won't be able to step up and take that big swing. The piece says, the likely answer is not at the scale required. Private foundations cannot replace public aid budgets and should not be treated as a substitute for predictable, publicly accountable development finance. But that does not make philanthropy marginal. Because foundations can be more flexible than official donors, they can sometimes move faster, take risks that public agencies avoid, and invest in issues that fall between the bilateral and multilateral mandates. Ise told me about Dry Linden and how it came about. So to give a little background and just to give a little caveat, Dry Linden approaches possible partners to support them in their work. But one of the things you need to know is that they do not process unsolicited applications. This is just an FYI. Don't be trying to shoot your shot. But they do dabble in the realm of gender and social issues, as well as LGBTQIA investment funding.
Behind the curtain. Well, so I came to the work from another 10 years of what at the time they called that strategic donorship, with meaning relatively large gifts that I was just doing as an individual, and a lot through established relationships. We started with Australia and building up their international program. So, but a lot of it was really built on my own personal relationships. And I was hesitant to build up staff because I had helped set up the German Women's Fund. So I knew about the joys and the difficulties of larger organizations with proper boards and so on. And I was, I'd rather be very flexible in this. And it feels sometimes a little bit like a cop out, but instead of having a proper board, we're just very fundamentalist in our values. We've stuck with small staff, but for the longest time we were 2, then 3, and now we're 7. And I didn't think it would be so much fun, but the team's just so good that it is a lot of fun. Any encounter is fun. I think it enables us to respond fairly swiftly, and now we've been in crisis, first COVID, and it's where we learned crisis behavior as a donor. But now just the dropping away of most of the other funding in where we're active, how to respond to that. So that's very immediate work, and the rest of the work is just very long term. And that's where it's also an understanding of ourselves as a financial institution. And I think too many donors and too many staff within foundations see themselves as part of civil society, and they want to be donors, but they don't see the investment side, the capital that's there, that this is built on, and what can be done in impact investing. And from impact investing, we got into how can we do queer lens impact investing. That was the mission from the start, and it took hiring a specialist to build a program around queer businesses. And this thing that we call DEI lending. We give loans to medium-sized businesses, the programs in Mexico, and they put this money toward more DEI inclusive work. Because we'll have a world where there'll be much less money coming in from the global north for around the world. As we built up and had the hope that it would still increase, but it will not. So how do groups keep going? If they just go into pro bono work in future, we'll have burnout. So income is the question. How do groups develop income? And groups need time and ideas and models and maybe support and legal support, how to set up structures. Plenty more ideas, how to get income into the movements to keep them sustained. So that's the long-term work that we've been doing for something like 7 years now.
We really do have to rethink what we are doing when it comes to moving money around the realm. From rethinking the way funding works to moving above and beyond the current paradigms and structures. The time for change isn't fast approaching, it is here. The wealth is wilding out and the ground is shifting, so we need to see what we are going to do. The sad thing is we cannot escape capitalism because we aren't quite at that looping back to bartering place yet. But the convo is happening, and you know what? I have faith in it. Kinda. Maybe. Anyway, of course, I have thrown some things in the show notes to read because we are here for a cognitive workout as well as a chat and a chillax. Shout out to the Global Unit for Feminism and Gender Democracy of the Heinrich-Böll Foundation that is still hosting this podcast. Guys, they're still letting me do this. The plot continues to twist. And also shout out to my mix and mastering team, Ray and Sheldon, for that post-apocalyptic production. Thank you also to Cameron, hey bestie, Smith, for your dope research and making me look like I know a thing or two about a thing or two. Till the next episode, do capitalist crimes for the revolution. Start a multi-marketing scam for the movement, or use your generational wealth to fight the anti-gender wave. Because it's all chaos anyway, and this is not the apocalypse we signed up for.